Hi, my name's Rupert, and today I am talking about things that business owners might like to consider surrounding remote working. This is the first of 3 videos in this series, and today we're talking about environment and equipment. So traditionally we think of giving a member of staff a laptop and that allows them to work home, living the dream. They've got the freedom, the flexibility, and don't have to be in the office to be productive. The reality I think we've seen is a bit different. People working on kitchen tables or dining room tables on chairs that weren't necessarily designed to be sat on for 8 hours a day. It doesn't always help people's back posture. Likewise, other areas of the house, such as the couch, the living room, are people kind of crouched over these 13, 14, 15-inch screens, huddled over for long periods of time. Not necessarily a great physical environment for them to be in. Lastly, from an environmental perspective, if you've got a young family, as I do, the distractions and the ability to concentrate can come into play sometimes, which is always worth considering. So some of these things are things we can deal with very easily with different technology, different equipment. Obviously having the right seating and office chairs to be sitting in for up to 8 hours a day is a great place to start. Are people using laptop screens, or have they actually got decent monitors in front of them? A similar setup to you have in the office. Would you have a member of staff working in an office just crouched over a single laptop all the time, or are they more likely to have full-size monitors and keyboards and mice and that sort of thing? Have to get a webcam, a decent quality webcam, or not just something baked into the laptop. Particularly if they have picked up their PC from the office and PC and keyboard, mouse and monitor and so on, taking it home for the first time. It may not have even had audio in it, so speakers and that sort of thing as well. Especially with the significant uptake everyone has seen and experienced with Zoom meetings and Teams meetings and that sort of thing, video conferencing. Speaking of which, we're probably going to need some sort of audio input into the system, so microphones at least. There's a little picture of a headset with microphone on it, but let's be realistic. As I mentioned earlier, with those distractions, what you might actually want to do is invest in a Bluetooth set with some active noise cancelling in it to allow you to focus when you're working. VoIP phones have come a long way over the last 10 years or so, and it's increasingly popular increasingly common for people to have VoIP phones in the office. The benefit of that is if they do need to work remotely, they can physically unplug their handset, plug it in to the router at home, subject to the cabling and availability and so on, obviously, and then their phone system should work from anywhere. So really flexible, and that sort of setup has just allowed the NetPrimates team to pick up our equipment and start working remotely. So a little glimpse of where you'll find me a lot of the time. That's my desk. No, it's not normally that tidy, but that's the setup I've got working from home. It's the majority of the setup. As you can see, I've got 2 full-size monitors, similar to my setup in the office. I've got some other equipment on the desk, scanners, docking stations, phone headsets, that sort of thing. There's a couple of things you can't see as well. There's a printer as well I need at home. Even things down to power bars and UPSs for key systems. With the equipment I've got, fortunate to have in my office, I'm probably using 7 or 8 sockets. So even just having kind of power bars and that sort of thing is the sort of thing that you want to consider when sending people home. It's very much not just a case of give them a laptop and expect the same level of productivity. This change in equipment requirement and working environments has a longer term impact as well. It's not just about procurement once. Businesses are thinking more about their technology purposes moving forwards, and certainly when we're advising people, we are proactively having conversation about considering replacing desktops with laptops at renewal instead of just replacing desktops with more desktops because that's what you've always had. So there's a similar financial outlay to laptops and PCs. And so the time to do it is at the time you're about to invest money for the next 3 years at least for most equipment. We're having conversations with customers about the possibility of hot desk setups, reducing the office space requirements. Lockdown in the UK has thrown up many challenges, and it's also allowed people to learn quite a lot as well. The number of people that aren't necessarily planning to work back from the office full time, number of employees that would prefer kind of a flexible, some days at home, some days in the office. Some offices are closing up completely, and the entire team is just going to work remotely from now on. So the environment it has certainly changed, and as I said, we've learned a lot as an industry, as a community. So worth making sure that before you spend more money that it's the right setup for you. In a similar way, it's a great opportunity to review on-premise versus cloud infrastructure. So over the last kind of 5 or more years, some companies have started adopting more and more cloud services. Think of things that would historically have been in on-premise, such as if I think of QuickBooks or Sage accounting software, and you may have switched to Xero or Cashflow, for example. People that have already made that switch are just able to log on from home and carry on normally. Other core services such as file servers are the other big one. Again, historically would traditionally have been on-premise, but increasingly data can be stored safely, securely on the cloud, and that again allows access for anywhere without opening up ports on firewalls or requiring VPN connections back into your office and that sort of thing. So the way that remote working has impacted a business is very much dependent upon whether the business is operating from a more traditional IT perspective or whether they've been advancing incrementally over the last few years towards kind of cloud and modern working environments and so on. I touched upon phones earlier, and certainly if your phone system is coming up for renewal in the next couple of years, absolutely consider migrating to a hosted VoIP platform if you haven't done so already. And again, that makes life so much easier, being able to, the office number still rings, the company still get the phone bill, importantly, but and you can transfer calls between colleagues just as you would do within the office, as long as you've got that VoIP handset on your desk. Some companies are considering using soft phones, kind of VoIP that comes through the computers, but by far the most convenient experience is a VoIP system that works with a physical handset on your desk at home in exactly the same way as it would in the office. One of the considerations around this and one of the conversations we have with people is around the cost of these changes. So as I mentioned earlier, if you're running on a legacy platform, server-based, desktop-based, and a traditional PBX, then yeah, I'm afraid there's going to be quite a bit of investment required to get you into a properly modern working environment from an IT perspective. But at the same time, if you are in a position where you may not necessarily need to renew the lease on your offices, you might be able to downsize your offices at renewal, then ultimately the cost of the premises may significantly reduce, which I would suggest in most cases should more than outweigh the changes in technology costs. So I hope this has been useful. The purpose of these videos is very much to encourage people to take action. Number one thing action to take away from here is to review your current working provision. In early 2020 in the UK, a lot of decisions were made quickly through necessity from a initial lockdown perspective to enable remote working to people and organisations that had never even thought about it before. So if that meant that old equipment was taken home or decisions were made, security policies were changed to facilitate that urgent need, then that's absolutely fine as long as it's been considered and that you're reviewing it on an ongoing basis. So that's the first thing that I'd absolutely consider looking at. Secondly, ask your team if and where they're struggling with remote working, both from a physical environment and an equipment perspective. Have they got everything they need to be able to do the job productively to the same level they were doing it before? And then lastly, as I mentioned, this is part 1 of 3 videos in this series. I'd strongly encourage you to watch the second one, which is around the subject of cybersecurity. And then the third video in the series is on the subject of collaboration, making sure people have got the software and services that they need to be able to carry out their jobs. So, as always, we really hope you find this useful. If you do, please share it with anybody else that you think may benefit. You can click subscribe on the video or visit the site below to receive notifications when new videos are posted. And as I mentioned, I strongly encourage you to go and view the video on cybersecurity next. Thank you very much for watching.